Hi, dear astrologer from belladeveroofficial.wordpress.com, and today I am doing another video, birth chart reading for Harry Styles. So I'm talking about his Mercury today. Sorry, your Mercury. I want to talk to you. This is for you. So I'm talking about your Mercury, in Aquarius in the fourth house. It's in the Anaretic degree, which is the 29th degree, which is the last degree. Just a second. Okay, so a planet in a zodiac signs from 0 to 29. It's like 29 point something. So, and then it changes to 0 again in the next zodiac sign. So, first of all, Mercury is communicating, thinking, any kind of speaking, any, like sign language, French, German, English, any type of speaking there ever could be. It's and communicate or thinking, processing ideas and what you hear and what you read. It's like reading too. I mean, all with words, dealing with words, processing, situations, how you want to respond, which has to do with how you want to respond is other stuff like the moon placement. But anyway, but it's how you, process how you want to get across your point of view, it's your sense of humor, it's the way you learn, it's skills, so it's related to your work also. This is one thing you need to look at for possibly what you want to do for a job, but not the only thing. There's a number of things you need to look at in the birth chart for that, but the zodiac sign can be a part of it, like, who you're dealing with, like Aquarius is groups of people. And in the fourth house, your emotions, so you can, work, it could be like anything to do with family, kids, emotional things. Not necessarily, but it can be that you can be interested in that, with your job, especially for you in music, the way you communicate, it's a mix of Aquarius and the fourth house, which is Cancer, and the moon, which is emotions. So you communicate in a way that is like emotional and caring, like motherly. And definitely I can tell you, which this about you, but just to point it out, Mercury communicating in the fourth house being about moon and emotions and Cancer, like mother. At your work, you communicate with people. Like what this placement is about is whenever you see someone in the crowd, like having something going on with them, you make sure they're okay. Like, it's not something you dismiss. You want to, especially in the fourth house, the mother Cancer, caring, kind of communicating, you need to make sure they're okay, or nothing bad is going on with them, and or if it is, they have help if they need something, or whatever. Or not just for your job, but like at home especially too, because it is in the fourth house. You can be that way there too, or I mean anywhere you communicate, you can be that way. So that's that. It's the way you learn, like I said, it's the your mind processing what you're learning and what you're hearing and everything. And um, I'll get into that in a little bit. Um, and so if I think of something else that Mercury is, I'll say it later. But it's I mean, you can think, like whatever whatever is about Mercury or whatever is about communicating and thinking, that's related to this. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, so Gemini is all about communicating. So Mercury always has that quality to it, no matter what zodiac sign it's in. But definitely the zodiac sign in the house will give it its own completely, flavor of it. And Virgo is all about organizing and critiquing things. So Mercury always has that quality to it too. The way you do that is the zodiac sign, and what you do that about is the house. Especially for the fourth house, it's about emotions for you. So you're critiquing life or your relationships and what you hear and what you see, and the way you're processing things and the way you're critiquing things or what you're critiquing. It's about the fourth house, emotions and your relationships. um, you know you're processing emotional things going on. And the anaretic degree, it gives it a whole nother flavor too, which I'll explain. But so Aquarius is fixed, which means staying the same, loyal, doesn't change. It's it your way of thinking and communicating. Basically, it stays the same. It's very, very difficult for someone to persuade you into a different way of thinking. Any fixed sign, because there's four. Like mutable is changeable, so these people can think one way one day, one way the next day a different way. But with Aquarius, persuaded to think different ways. But with Aquarius, you basically stay the same, like every minute of your life. And Aquarius is very stubborn also, so it's very difficult for anyone to persuade you into a different way of thinking. You have your beliefs and you pretty much stick with them. And I'll explain more about it then. But um, so Saturn and Uranus rules Aquarius. So I'll talk about that too in a little bit. Uh, First of all, let's talk about Saturn. So that's all about structure and like grown up planet. So it's restrictions, which for this it's not so much of a restricted anything going on, except that your Mercury is with Saturn in the fourth house, which can give it a little bit of a restricted kind of a karmic thing going on, especially with emotional things. It's that can definitely be a part of it. And in the anaretic degree, um, which I've already done the video about, so you can look at that video if you want. But with Saturn, though, it gives you, it makes you more, it depends because it's in the fourth house, this of Saturn, which is emotions, because Saturn is the unemotional planet. But it can restrict you from showing all of your emotions all the time. Like, even if you want to, there can be a restriction of that. But it's what I was is more of being structure and like discipline, and so there's that quality of communicating that you have, like, um, in your work, or wherever. There's a quality of Saturn and Uranus, so it's not just one or the other. But the Saturn qualities would be like you're you want, and especially with Virgo, being ruled by Mercury for anyone, the way you go about organizing things, is in an Aquarius way, Uranus and Saturn way. But so it's definitely Saturn, like, structure and taking your time. Saturn is taking time with communicating and thinking and getting your ideas out there in a Saturn way, like, presenting it in a way that will, like, stick with you, or what you've learned sticks with you. And like glue, like that's what that part of Saturn is. Like, it's structure to it, and it's the grown-up planet, so it has wisdom, kind of like a, you know um not a childish way of communicating. It's very unemotional, so it's very detached, and you are in your. But anyway, so, if you're very structured in your way of thinking and communicating, and you you know what your opinions are, and you want to present it in a way that it's stable. You want people to see that about you, where it's it makes sense to people, and people can rely on your way of thinking or communicating. That's what Saturn is about. It's, the, like I said, the grown up planet. So it wants to be an adult. It makes you want to be an adult in your way of communicating and, presenting things. That's Mercury. Presentations, and, how you carry yourself when you're communicating, that kind of thing. Um, and Aquarius is the humanitarian, so Saturn there also wants to communicate in a way that's like for groups of people, and the humanitarian, like Aquarius is unemotional and detached, but you want to like be, there for groups of people. But in the fourth house, it gives you an emotional way of communicating, though. Um, like philanthropy, or some uh, organization that is for helping people. That's what humanitarian is about, obviously. So you communicate in that way, and you want to help people, groups of people, and get your opinions and your word out there to the way you think, um, especially in an emotional way. You want to like do that in groups, like and Aquarius being humanitarian can have this group of people that are part of, and that one, and that one, and that one, and for different causes, and communicate in a humanitarian way for each, like, or you know, uh, helping some, like the Red Cross, or the just any hospitals, or taking care of people, or anywhere where there's help needed. That's Aquarius. That's what they want to do. But the fourth house, like I said, gives it emotional you know, way of being. But Aquarius and yourself though is like unemotional. So you're very detached when you're doing this and can do this in a way that is actually, really helpful to people and get, something done with groups of people. It's not just, you know, pouring your emotions out there, not getting something done, unlike Saturn structured. So you can go in these groups of people and communicate and in a structured way and, help something happen, not it's not just some scattered emotional thing going on. It's for a cause. That's what humanitarian is all about. Getting something done for groups of people. So that's that part of it. Um and you it can be yeah, like visions for these groups of people and in an innovative way, and Uranus too, which I'll talk about in a minute. Um, but or scientific. It's all about like details in a scientific way, like in innovative way, to maybe help this cause or that cause or whatever, or if you have a charity or whatever. Um, it's in a structured like scientific way that like Saturn, is like um, does things that it knows will last. So that's what you do for these groups of people, which is the 11th house. Um, and if you're in conversations with people, if people ask for your opinion, you just flat out say it like it is, not like in a really Capricorn way, like that's the most unemotional sign, not like in a snippy kind of way, like that's my Mercury, and not in a short kind of unfriendly way or in a really blunt way, but Aquarius can be blunt because it's unemotional and ruled by Saturn, but just in a, it's different from Capricorn. Um, I don't know, because if I said it's ruled by Saturn too, both those zodiac signs, but Saturn gives each of those a different flavor uh because of Aquarius being ruled by Uranus too. But you give the no BS kind of way of communicating with someone, like especially I have to say if there's anyone ever that you're not getting along with or that you're not friends with at all, that you've never been friends with, Aquarius can really turn on their unemotional, detached side and be like, nope, I'm done with you. Don't talk to me. That's how you can be too if it's that kind of situation, but it's not necessarily always because you have to look at everything in your birth chart and the fact that Aquarius is ruled by the 11th house, which is friends and groups of people, but Aquarius can have this really like I said, one side of it is just flat out saying it like it is, like you just don't have time for sugarcoating things. So if someone asks you, you will just flat out be honest with them, and it's in a friendly way most of the time. I mean, it's not intentionally to be, mouthy. It's just their way of thinking, your way of thinking. Um, it's not like with emotions or anything. It's intellectually thinking, and Uranus too, like and Saturn structure way of thinking. You're like, you want to say the truth and make it like Saturn, like in an adult way, but Uranus like in a maybe you can communicate in an unusual way too, like yeah, just whatever unusual way you could possibly communicate. Like sometimes Aquarius can have a dry sense of humor, like in a sarcastic way, but not like a Capricorn, but like just in an unusual kind of Uranus way. Um, and let me see. You definitely the fourth house though gives it an emotional, like motherly, taking care of people kind of a way. So that's a lot of what I see in you. It's not just unemotional, not just Aquarius. Um, so that's like a big part of this. What I've seen about you. Um, the house gives it a whole different flavor other than just the zodiac. Um, but Aquarius also communicates and it's intellectual, so it wants to process things in its own way and its own time. So Aquarius is good at, going off and doing their own thing and like wanting, time to process things, have their own space, so they can, process things or, think about conversations and, what they think about what they think. And, Aquarius is definitely one of the number one signs that needs their own space and needs to have their own, even I'm like this too, even if it's just my sun sign being in Aquarius, and I've definitely noticed this about you. When Aquarius just naturally, they're a loner, but in a confident way. Aquarius is very confident. Um, but when they're like, I don't know. I mean, I've seen plenty of Aquarius like hugs and everything and being with people, but like whenever you're in a group of people and it's getting suffocating, you have to get out of it. And even if it's like, you're still with the people, you kind of wander off and go do your own thing for a little bit and then you go back and communicate with people. It's like it's just a natural Aquarius thing to do. It's whenever you're in a party or on stage with people, if you're with them, you know, but then if people see, this group of people and then there's someone off doing their own thing over there, it's probably an Aquarius. Especially thinking and communicating, you know, if you're over there and you're doing Mercury things, you're thinking and processing things and, I mean, you can be doing that about what's going on at the moment or, from other times, that's just an Aquarius thing to do. Um, but they're ruled by the 11th house, which is all about groups of people, though, like I said. So, you definitely want to be in groups of people, and definitely Mercury and Aquarius can have many friends and many groups of people, and like not just like one type of friend. It's Aquarius is definitely known for having a friend from any kind of group of people, any kind of race, religion, or background or culture. Aquarius is like not, they're against, like being prejudiced. I can't say that word. And like labels and like, all things like that. Like they want to be friends with everyone and get along with everyone and like, when you're learning or processing things or communicating and thinking, you want to have, different um, points of view, even if you're own is fixed and stays the same. You want to communicate with all sorts of people and, you know, learn about different kinds of people and be friends with them, and it's not excluding anyone. That's what Aquarius is all about. Including everyone in their groups of circles of friends. Um, and the 11th house is your wishes and your goals, and so you wanna have such things, especially like humanitarian way, like you want to have groups of people a part of your that your life too, and you're you can have a goal of having a charity or something, or that's part of wishes or whatever. And Uh, it's also networking. Um, so like I said a little bit about Aquarius is good at, having, this group of friends and that one and that one and that one and even more, and, you know, personal friends and like groups of people for your work, and, this project you're doing, or that philanthropy thing, or that's what Aquarius is about. It's what the 11th house is about. Networking, and you're good at that. Like if you want to get something done for your work, you're good at networking to get something done. Whatever goal you have. Um, and um, I'll get to the anaretic degree part of this then. So anyway, uh, and Uranus is all about innovative things, and um, it's electricity, so it's like that. You get an idea of what you want to communicate about with people, especially in your work or something, or especially with the fourth house, it can be about emotional things, maybe. Um, or some cause you have, or some charity, or whatever, that you can get these flashes of ideas all of a sudden at the last minute for something, or it's just all of a sudden, and it can be really innovative in the future kind of thinking. So really creative, and really, there's kind of like a psychic ability to Aquarius, like in that kind of a way. You just get like this, you know, kind of a vision, kind of Uranus, kind of a vision of what you want to communicate about, or some innovation. I mean, people with Aquarius in their birth chart somewhere, or Uranus aspects, can be the type of people that have, invented something. So, um, you can, if you're doing something for some project, or for some philanthropy thing, or your work, or whatever, you can get this sudden idea of what you want to communicate about, and I mean, make a speech about it, like, and you have it like, be really innovative, and like really, and like Saturn also structured, and like really, like, you know go somewhere with it, not just for some at the moment whatever great idea, just whatever, but like, I mean, it can be some long lasting kind of innovative kind of a way of coming up with something also, and that, like, that can last with people. The people can have hear what you're saying, and get quotes from what you're saying, and you share it with people, and that's part of the networking thing. And you can really get, you know fame like that. Like people, your way of communicating can really stick with people and make a really big impact on people. Like Martin Luther King Jr. had his Mercury in Aquarius. You know, that kind of person. That's the type of person you are. Like, um, you know, you can be a part of causes, and your way of communicating can be like so that, like I said, your ideas are long lasting and people remember, you know, all sorts of innovative things you came up with or said, or you know, um, and um, let me see what else is there. Let me see. Okay, so oh yeah, and like I said, Uranus is, well, for one thing, it's rebellious. So you you can kind of sometimes you can want to shock people just for the fun of it, or communicate in an unusual way, or think in an unusual way, like in an innovative way, just something innovative way, um like you know, get these visions or whatever, Uranus, you know, like electricity visions, and it can be for your philanthropy stuff, or for you know just your work, like, and like I said, you can have different things going on with your you know projects and your you know humanitarian stuff and your music, and you know, and Mercury and Aquarius can definitely be good at writing songs, you know, and coming up with great ideas for songs, or you know, like putting a lot of uh substance into the song, like not just some you know teeny bopper song. Like it can have really like a meaning to it, you know. Um, but you can use this Uranus kind of way of thinking to communicate. Like, if there's some cause that you're a part of, some group organization, or if there's conflict, you can communicate in an unusual way and catch people's attention and like solve problems in that kind of way. Um, but it's kind of in an organized way too, like what Mercury is all about, and Saturn, you know, for Aquarius ruling it. Um, but with Uranus, there's always this kind of unusual, maybe like a quirky way, but like not not like people like make fun of it at all. It's just really innovative, and it's really like in the future kind of thinking, you know, um, just really creative, a creative way of communicating, you know. I can't even think of an example just to give. I mean, I'm sure you know how you think, but you know, so if you're about that, you can just think about you know what you're you know how you think and communicate, and you can think of you know an example of what this can be about. Um, and um, with air signs being in Mercury, or you know Mercury being in an air sign, especially Aquarius, air signs never stop thinking. I mean, and even just for my sun sign, I never stop thinking. But definitely in Aquarius, though, you never ever stop thinking. That's what Mercury and Aquarius is about. Even if for some reason, even if you wanted to argue with me or something, I don't know if you would, but if you decided to, which can be Mercury and Aquarius, just to get a reaction out of someone, just for the stimulating conversation. But if you wanted to argue with me about that, you're wrong, because Mercury and Aquarius never, ever, ever stops thinking, ever. And loves to communicate, though. That is different from the other air signs, because Aquarius definitely wants their own space sometimes, but you're always thinking in a creative kind of way, in a humanitarian kind of way. Um, it's all about, especially with Aquarius, it's, you know, putting your thoughts to good use, for groups of people, you know. Um, Aquarius is all about groups of people, and it's like uh causes, like I said, like the bigger picture of things, like what you can communicate, like, or what you can communicate about, for something, for a purpose. So it's all about innovative ways of thinking like that, and it can also be stressful too, in case you didn't notice. Where Aquarius can be, because Aquarius, for some reason, it's just has this, as kind of just that Mercury and Aquarius is a really, really great placement to have, but Aquarius just has these hangups about their way of thinking, and and it's ruled by the nervous system. So you need to be careful about that in your way of thinking, not to overthink and stress yourself out, because Aquarius is naturally good at that. The 11 or the and electricity is all about, you know, it can be about anxiety, or stress. If there was some stressful situation, and Aquarius just thinks about it and never stops thinking about it, and so you have to be careful about that. Um, and like I said, Aquarius is naturally good at doing this disappearing act whenever anything's going on with that has to do with emotions, and you're good at not communicating with them. Aquarius, anywhere Aquarius is good at disappearing without communicating. And especially when you have more planets in Aquarius, and especially Mercury, your way of thinking, sometimes you want to just go off and do your own thing without communicating with people. It can just be a lot of, Aquarius naturally just doesn't like emotions. It's really just downright scary to Aquarius to have emotions. They just want to run away from it and not deal with it. That's the part of thinking, this disappearing act that Aquarius does. Um, and yeah, but as for the Anaretic degree, though, um, especially being in the fourth house, which is about emotions, what to do with the Anaretic degree? Uh, it's kind of a karmic placement to have the 29th degree, so it takes learning and patience and self-love. That's a big part of this that I want you to know about. You have to be really patient with yourself in this karmic lesson, which I'll explain, but you have to give yourself love. Make sure you're not neglecting yourself, from love, from yourself and from other people with this, because it's a definitely karmic placement to have. Um, you need to let the positive of Mercury and the positive of Mercury and Aquarius and the 29th degree, you know, if you're learning these lessons, let the positive of Mercury be a part of all of this and not shut that out, because it's so important with the anaretic degree that make sure you're including positive and love in this. Um, which, like I said, it's about difficulty with communicating, a fear of communicating, especially from childhood. And there's a really karmic thing going on here with this, and especially with being in the fourth house, which is about home and emotions, and especially with Saturn being there. It's not all just this, it's not all gloom and doom, but it is a part of it. And you can work on it. You're not trapped in some horrible situation that you can't deal with. It's nothing like that. But it takes patience and learning and putting effort into it. So it's all about like when a planet being in a certain zodiac sign is in the 29th degree, that's the end of, the degrees, from 0 to 29. So it's old and tired kind of. So it can be like when you get tired and you're trying to communicate, you can get kind of, you don't want to communicate and you kind of just, you either like can have an edge to your communicating or just a tired, like, I don't care, right now, to communicate. That's what this is all about. And it can have an indecisive quality to it, the anaretic degree. So it's like one minute you're planning, your way of communicating, your thinking, of your skills, your sense of humor, and you know, then the next minute the anaretic degree decides to change it, and then it can get kind of difficult to deal with, and that's when the difficult and the fear of communicating can be a part of it. You which, like I said, you can learn how to deal with this in a good way, but it takes patience. You know, you gotta make sure you're not shutting down and not shutting people out, and make sure you're communicating your ideas and your whatever Mercury and Aquarius is about. Make sure you're communicating what you want to with people. Not be afraid to, even if there's conflict with people, you have to communicate. You have to, just make deal with it. And this can get better. It's not like some horrible situation you're stuck with, not being able to deal with it. But it takes patience and learning. Um, because this karmic lesson about this, especially with being in the fourth emotional things, it comes with the opportunity to, deal with the karma. Like I said, you always have the opportunity to, you know, get rid of your fears and, uh, just, let your ideas and whatever, just, get them out and tell people what you think. But you got to do it in a loving way. Don't run all over people or something, or don't be afraid to, and don't be afraid of being rejected. Just make sure, because Aquarius is naturally confident, that you do have that confidence, especially Mercury and Aquarius is a great placement to have, so it can really help with this. um but there's just a lot of like karma and indecisive fear with this anaretic degree about your communicating and about emotional home life kinds of things. You have to be aware of that, and you know, try to, figure out how to, communicate, like in this difficult situation. Like, uh, you obviously can communicate very well, and you have your opinions and everything, which, like I said, is a fixed sign. So your opinions are very fixed, but so you have to make sure you're not hiding the positives of Mercury and Aquarius or in the fourth house, especially with Fortune being there. You have to let yourself be vulnerable when you're communicating, because then you can learn these karmic lessons and not be afraid to communicate. So that's basically what that's about. Um, with this Anaretic degree to learn how to deal with this karma. So you're not stuck in some horrible situation with this, but it takes patience and self-love. So anyway, that's basically what that's about. Um, so yeah, that's all of this video is about your Mercury. So but I'll be doing more videos soon. So hope you like this one.